Today is Wednesday, April 5th, 2017. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Survivor Game Changers Week 5.
This episode was titled Vote Early, Vote Often. That came from Debbie. Previously on Survivor, over at Tavua, Troyzan was in the minority. At Mana, Ty had found a clue to a hidden immunity idol. And according to Probst, Debbie had lost her mind. Aubry and JT tried to rally the troops, but Sandra countered, and JT was out, and Aubry was left in the dark. Okay, we're back at Nuku on night 13. Aubry tells them once again, I'm impressed. And then she tells us in her confessional, which they're bouncing between her talking to them and her talking to us, that she's constantly on the bottom. She asked Sandra a good question. Why JT? Why not me? What'd Sandra say?
Well, because of what happened with Malcolm.
Yeah, he had to be held accountable, she said. It's about accountability.
Well, and Aubry tells us that she's tried really hard to connect with the people, but she just doesn't.
Yep.
She's not been able to do that.
She is definitely impressed with Sandra. One heck of a play, she said, that she put together there, and she can learn from her.
She's on the bottom, though.
Yeah, but I liked how she was looking at it. She's like, I can learn from Sandra.
Yeah, we'll see what she
wasn't
does.
Wallowing in misery or anything like that. She said she's an outstanding player, and I can learn from her.
No, and she didn't rant and rave or any of that kind of stuff about being out of the loop.
I love that.
Hey, good job, guys. Good one.
She didn't waste any energy on the defeat. She said, man, what can I learn from this? And it is a failure. And when you come at things that way, when you're constantly asking, okay, you acknowledge the failure and you say, what can I learn from it? What can I learn from Sandra in this case?
She recorded
Fantastic.
it in case she can use that going forward.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she got to get a few more details on how it all worked out. But then we do see her, she did go off on her own for a little bit to ruminate on it, right? She was down on the beach alone. Looked like she was just thinking about what had happened there. But I thought she managed the defeat really well.
Well, and this was unusual. Surprised us. They went over to Mana night 13.
Yeah, this is rare. You almost never get anything else. But, of course, it's because Ty's up to something.
In the middle of the night?
He had a clue. Yeah, and my question is, they're obviously, because they're filming that with night vision, how can he see anything?
Well, he obviously could see something.
Yes. Yeah, it just seemed hard to believe a little bit. Now, at one point, they cut to an image of the clouds clearing, and it looked like it was a full moon. So I guess that was the explanation. I'm just sitting there watching going, there's no way this guy can see that. This black and white, this gray motif on a board. You're not going to see that in the dark. So it would have to be very bright, full moon, for him to be able to do that.
I think you answered your question.
Because he didn't bring fire with him. There wasn't some simple answer like that. Yeah, it seemed unrealistic until the moon came out.
Well, and it was a lot smarter to do it during the night, because he could just say, oh, yeah, I had to go, to the bathroom or something.
No, he went to the well. He went to get water. It's the perfect cover story.
Well, who gets up and goes to get water during the night?
Someone who's thirsty.
I see.
Right? You're always in danger of dehydrating in that kind of situation. So.
Well, usually you'd get it before you went to bed, but maybe you drink it all.
Yeah. Maybe he was tending the fire and he needed more.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. Okay, it's day 14. We're going to have a 3-day cycle, but as usual, when we have these, we don't get to see one of those days. But on day 14, we get to see something pretty important. They come in thinking they're going to a challenge. They return the immunity idols. Probst thanks them for bringing them. And you get the reaction to JT being voted out.
Yep.
And then he drops the bomb on him. Cirie asks a question just before that. What's on the table, Jeff?
Yeah,
something's on the table. Yeah, and then Jeff hits him with...
Drop your buffs.
It's drop your buff time. Now, I was checking the reactions, and there's one person who was scowling.
Brad.
Yeah, Culpepper was scowling like the whole time.
Okay, here's something though. They must tell them in the tree mill when they tell them to come for whatever, bring the immunity idol.
Yeah, there had to have been some indication.
Because that was the morning after tribal council, which they wouldn't normally do an immunity challenge.
Right.
So they already knew something.
Yeah, you could see there was some apprehension in Zeke. Zeke was talking to Ozzy. Yeah, what's going on?
So that gives them a heads up.
Good situational awareness there on for some of the players. But after he says drop your buffs, you see Ozzy, Andrea, Hali, everyone else. They're smiling. Aubrey's even doing a little shimmy.
Aubrey's excited.
She's doing a shimmy with her shoulders.
Troy's excited.
Well, he's thrilled and smiling. But
yes.
Culpepper, not so much.
Well, yeah.
So we get
disappointing for me.
New Mana.
New, not Mana 3.0.
Yeah. And we get Nunu Nuka. So who's on Nunu Mana?
I like newest Mana and newest
Yeah,
Nuka.
it's a little shorter, huh?
Yeah, you just liked doing the Nunu. You've been doing Nunu all night.
Yes.
Nunu.
Nunu Mana, Nunu Nuka. Who's on Nunu Mana? Who did we end up with? How did that break down?
Nunu is Brad and Sierra and Hali, Troy, Cirie, Michaela, and Aubry.
Okay.
So Aubry and Michaela, they don't like each other so much. But,
right.
They might pull together.
I think Aubrey's happy, though. This gives her some cause for hope.
Well, yeah. Michaela's not in the majority, at least right off the bat. So, yeah, she gives her more hope. Because she knew she'd be the next one.
Right.
If they went to tribal council again. And I really kind of thought Brad would think that Hali was with them and be happy, but he didn't seem to be. But we'll get to see more of that later.
To that, yep.
Nuku, or newest Nuku.
Nuku, yep.
We have Ty, Ozzy, Varner, and Zeke. So they got 4 guys. Sandra, Sarah, and Andrea.
Yeah, so Varner and
so
Sandra
your heart kind of drops and goes, oh, top to the bottom.
Oh, in terms, yeah, right. So I'm worried about my boy and you. I had picked Sandra to go, so I'm okay with her being in this situation.
I know, and I really, like we talked about earlier today, I really thought she probably would too. But I couldn't do it. I thought, no, I would feel guilty about the point. I put Debbie.
And Debbie ended up in the middle.
No. I was like, oh, wonderful. Debbie has no chance of going.
Exactly.
Was the one I chose.
So I was a little tickled at that point.
Though, yes, you were. But I was like, great.
Debbie in the middle.
Well, I just thought, who's the most annoying? That's how I made my decision. Because I thought, oh, Ozzy, Cirie, or Brad, they're going to turn Sandra. And then I got in there and I started looking and I picked my safe picks and I went, who's the most annoying? And I thought, oh, Debbie. So I put Debbie. Didn't happen.
Ty announces that the 3 gay men are together, so he's ecstatic at this point. And Probst points out that Sandra's not looking so happy. She got her hands in her pocket and she's in the back row and...
Yeah.
At which point she immediately took her hands out of her pocket and placed them in front of her.
Absolutely did, yes.
Yeah. And explained that, well, she hopes that they'll give her a chance, right? That hopefully before they have to make a decision, they'll give her a chance.
Yeah, and then Jeff explains the whole Debbie's going to exile.
Get a lot of reactions. Everyone looks at this as a very negative event.
Ooh, exile.
Yep.
Terrible.
We're told that she will
live alone, which he lied.
Yeah.
Well, I guess she technically lived alone.
There are twists coming.
She stayed alone until John didn't stay long, but at least I don't think
We're told that she'll return at the next tribal council, but she'll be safe from this next vote out.
Yep. But she can't bond with anyone.
Debbie tells us, well, she's used to being alone from her youth. At which point we get the hashtag giddy up because she used to go out and ride her pony alone. She's not expecting a pony this time, though. Typical Debbie. It's kind of off the wall.
Rode the boat. Well.
Yeah. Varner tells us in a confessional he just went from the top to the bottom in a New York minute. And after he gets over the shock, he needs to recover and figure out how to improve his situation.
Yeah, get over his PTSD.
At which point I thought, I think I might be losing my USB because that he's getting some focus, and you either take out the number 1 or you take out the number 1's number 2. And that's Varner. He's been her right-hand man here. I don't know how significant of a right hand he's been, or maybe
that's
more accurate
how
to say he's
it
been the little
appears.
finger. Huh. Make a Game of Thrones reference. He's definitely been her little finger. So yeah, he's upset, and I started to worry for him at this point because it's like, I can't think too much about her being the target without thinking he's going to get included in that. Okay, so we cut over to the Nunu Mana there on day 14. Welcome back home, everyone.
Hugs, hugs, hugs.
Troyzan tells us he was in that 5-1 disadvantage at Tavua, and that was rough. Anything's going to be better than that, at which point he and Culpepper do a little bonding because they're the only two guys on the tribe.
And I think Hali, at first I thought she was talking about at Tavua they had been living on coconuts, but I think she was talking about Mana.
Yeah, it's always been that there were coconuts at Mana. Yeah.
Well, if she'd been there when Ozzy was there, she'd had food.
And Hali wasn't on Tavua, so. Yep. Yeah, so that can be rough on you, eating all those coconuts.
That's right.
And there was an extra video last week where Culpepper's talking about all the different types of coconut that you can eat, but it eventually can take a toll on your system.
True.
At which point things just sort of run straight through.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right, so Culpepper tells Troyzan that he's got Sierra, and he also mentions that he's worried about Hali because they weren't really tight. But it looks like there's an alliance forming. So you got Troyzan, Culpepper, Sierra. They realize they only have 3. They need another number there to get control of their tribe. Troyzan's worried because he tells us he doesn't want to get bamboozled by women again. But it looks like there's a lock there. They just got to find a 4th, and they're going to be in control of that tribe if they can lock that down.
Maybe.
Which I think there's a good chance that, Sierra can help with that if Culpepper can't do it or Troyzan can't do it themselves.
True, but they could get rid of Brad since he's a big threat early. Sierra probably wouldn't want to, but if Troy went with the other girls, of course, I don't think he'd trust the girls as much
Culpepper
as
seems
Brad.
like he's really, really invested in Sierra. That's a core alliance for him.
That's why it would be really, really, really fun if she popped him.
Okay. He's just wishing ill on Brad again? What has he done to deserve this ill will?
Nothing specific, but wouldn't it be fun?
Okay, let's go to Nuku on day 14. Andrea's wondering if they still have coffee, and we're told yes, and 3 chickens. So they had only eaten 2 of the chickens since the last shuffle.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like they've eaten a whole lot of them. What were they, 5 or 6?
5 is what we understood, yeah.
So they've only had 2.
So Varner and Zeke have a chat, and Varner's worried about being in the minority with Sandra for sure. And Sandra says, when Varner and Sandra are talking, she tells us, well, she ain't scared. She approaches these types of things calm and collected. In a day or 2, she tells us she'll be running the show. Well, I like the calm and collected part. That's definitely it. One of the things they teach you when you're in a survival situation is stop, think, observe, and plan. And she seems to be an expert at that kind of behavior. So she doesn't get rattled.
Fake it till you make it. I think that's how she, gets her mindset. Just like, okay, I'm not down and out. I'm just.
If you've got
here's
Zeke,
what I'm gonna do.
If you've got Zeke as your USB, you got to be thrilled with how things start to play out at this point. He tells Ozzy, we got to get rid of Sandra before the merge. People who think they can get rid of her at any time are the ones that always lose to her.
And we have to give them a story.
Yeah,
that was really good.
They're thinking it all through.
Give them a story.
Right? Got to make Sandra and Varner feel safe. What's it going to be, Ozzy asked. How are we going to do it so we can blindside them?
But you can tell even here that Andrea is a little bit concerned about Ty. She suggests, well, let's tell him Ty, because I am a little concerned about him.
Yep, she tells us Ty is the perfect decoy. He's a flip-flopper, and he's great at finding idols. So there you go. There's your story.
But, Zeke's your guy that's going around talking to everyone.
He was making that connection to Andrea and sharing that detail, the plan that he and Ozzy had hatched.
Including everyone, going and helping Ty, and
even talking
to Ty about it, getting Ty's opinion.
Ty tells him, yeah, Sandra's scary.
Yeah, Sandra, she's scary. Yeah, let's vote for her.
And at this point, Zeke tells us, yeah, Ty's known for flip-flopping, and he's risky to work with.
Well, but Ty's so concerned that
to his
they'll
credit,
want him out.
To his credit, right? As he says, there's always a chance they're actually coming for me.
So what does he do? He decides he wants another idol.
Yeah, he said, well, I had this clue, and it told me how to find the idol at the other camp.
Sandra had just
Let me see if it works here.
tried to work with Ty.
I don't think technically there should have been one there.
Well,
Because there was already an idol at Nuku, and JT left it. I think that should have taken it out of the game.
well, I think in essence they went, that one's lost. They didn't know where it was. It's lost, so we'll...
Sure.
I don't know. We don't know what they thought.
But with a little bit of work, he gets his canteen full, starts splashing the sideboards there that cover the well and decorate it. And sure enough, one of them ends up having a ship's wheel motif on it. He digs down just a few inches in the sand. Boop, idol number 2 he has in his possession.
They're just lucky that he didn't get to go to Tavua.
Yeah, exactly. I like what he did next, though, right? A little later on, Ty talks about how he doesn't feel like he's smart, but this was a super smart move.
Well, he isn't always smart, but sometimes
he's going to prove
he's
him.
very smart.
Yeah, exactly. He's got his moments, let's say
Yes.
that, in both directions.
Yes.
He excels in both directions. You could say he's a flip-flopper in this regard, couldn't you? So what he did, though, that was so smart was he ripped those boards off that the motif was on that was highlighted by the water.
Yes.
Ripped them off and then hid them, and then went under the pretenses of taking care of his chickens. He hid that second immunity idol too.
Now, do you think that the water soaked in enough by the time somebody went to the well that they didn't go, who's been pouring water everywhere? Why is this so wet around?
I don't think there would be that. It's not typical to have that level of situational awareness, because you might look at one side. Now, if for some reason you were in a situation where you sort of moved around the well, then yes. But if you saw it on a side, you'd think, oh, someone spilled their water and then had to refill, or when they were pouring, they spilled it over the side. That seems very plausible at the well.
Yeah, but not all the way around the well.
Right, you'd have to notice that was indeed the case. Mm-hmm. So it seems unlikely, although not, entirely impossible. Yeah, but I did love that he took that clue off and buried it. Good for him.
Well, and idol number 3. Whoa.
For Ty, yeah.
For Ty.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
doing
for
phenomenal.
Ty.
Yep. Yes. Okay, time to check out what Exile Island really is in this season. Turns out it's a ship. So we see Debbie coming in on a boat.
That's why they said floating at Exile.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Floating.
Yeah. So Debbie's thinking the worst, but then she sees this yacht up ahead. She's got all the macros. There's protein, there's carbs, there's fat,
Everything.
There's snacks, there's desserts,
There's a
wine.
hammock with pillows.
Yeah.
And
She does a little Gollum dance. I just thought she looked a little bit like Gollum there. Her hands look so
look at her
huge
hands,
and
they're like
those
Gollum's
giant
hands.
knuckles. Yeah.
Well, that's what.
But she chows down. She's got food falling out of her mouth while she's eating it. And then she kicks back to relax in the hammock. And in comes who?
Cochran.
John Cochran. He's the reward.
So,
what was the April Fool's thing you were telling me about that you saw?
Mariano posted on or tweeted that
We might have mentioned that,
that
didn't
he
we?
had. Well, I questioned
In
it
the
because
feedback
number
show.
one, it was April
Fool's.
1st, and the way he said it, he said something about I've been given permission to say that I'm going to be the one.
I think that's
coming
very
out or
clever.
something.
I like
And I
that.
thought, given permission.
So it's not
Number
him.
one, they
So-
wouldn't give him permission
Sure they would.
if they weren't showing it in commercials or something.
He's Mariano.
No, they didn't want it out there, and now
I
they
still
might
think
have
it was
given
clever.
him permission
I would have done something exactly like
to
that.
do that to throw people off.
Yeah.
Yes, but I did not 100%, even though I thought it could be him. He was my first thought.
But he's kind of been replaced in the Probst buddy scene there by Cochran.
No, I guess so.
So Probst does his buddy Cochran a solid and says, "Hey, you want to come to Fiji? I can hook it up." So yeah, Debbie helps.
Hang with Debbie in Fiji.
Yeah, he's got no idea who it's going to be, right? They didn't know until just hours before. He helps Debbie helps awkward Cochran onto the boat. I was afraid he was going to fall in there. That would have been good comic relief.
Yeah, I don't.
And she
do good on
offers
boats.
him the chair, and then he in turn offers her the chair. It's just kind of awkward and hard to watch a little bit. And you notice that he's got a bag on his arm, and there's another. I think it's the ship's wheel motif again on it. And Cochran tells us, well, He's got his work cut out for him, given that it's Debbie. He knows her reputation.
At least she recognized it.
Yep.
She knows. She was like,
She immediately goes contrarian on him. So she starts one-upping whatever he says out of the gate. And he asks her, well, what are your concerns? I'm here to strategize with you. She's like, oh, no, I have no fears. I've got nothing going on.
I am feeling extremely secure.
And Cochran's confession, they cut to his confessional again. He says, this is her fatal flaw, it's overconfidence. And
no concern about
to his credit, he keeps probing, right? Hey, is there any tension with anyone? Good on him.
Till he
making it
got
work.
her to tell the Culpepper story.
Right. And she says she had trouble with Culpepper.
A little bitty bit.
Yeah.
We didn't see if she told him much.
What did you think of Cochran? Cochran knows Culpepper, so he starts doing an impression of a gorilla pounding his chest as he's pretending to be Culpepper there.
Well, I love John. So.
I liked his advice, solid advice. Swallow your pride, pander to those egos. It's not really going to cost you anything. It was perfect. I would have said exactly the same thing. Might
win you a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And to Debbie's credit, she did say, I will take your advice. And I thought, well, that's debatable. But I think it's good that you said that. Whether she'll actually do it.
Good on her for at least acknowledging and not blowing right by it like she does sometimes.
I will take your advice.
Yeah. So
Either that or she just wanted him to shut up.
She knew enough to say that. Let's see if she actually does it right.
He's not going to stop talking till I give him what he wants.
Little iffy there. Yeah. At which point he announced, hey, there's a second twist, and he whips out this advantage option box from the bag that he had on his arm, and this really gets Debbie.
Debbie just had Christmas handed to her out there.
It is the bar none best exile experience ever presented in the game. And, kudos to production for another twist.
Well, we all thought, ooh, exile.
It really seemed to genuinely get to her, right? She broke down a little bit there. Yeah. She kissed him on the cheek, and then she was hugging him. Now she had stood up to do that and bent over
and made him stand up.
Yeah, well, and then he did stand up in return, and then she gives him a full-on hug, and he's like he's comforting her, he's patting her back, and
he did all the right things.
Yeah, good boy. Even when she says. And she was given an eyes-closed hug. That's why I thought there was something genuine to it, because the camera rotated around.
I thought she was genuinely...
She wasn't like she was doing what she thought she was expected to do. There was some real emotion feeling there, it seemed like, on her part.
That felt genuine to me, too.
And she even says, I'm sorry about my smelly, germy clothes. And he says, don't worry.
I'd already said that.
I'll burn these clothes as soon as we're done. So... Don't worry yourself about that.
I'll wash them. I'll burn them.
Yeah. Okay, so we learned that in the advantage option box, there are actually 3 potential advantages to choose from. There's a fake hidden immunity idol kit. I thought of Bob Crowley and David from last season immediately.
I don't think I would have chosen that one.
Could do something really impressive with that. I liked their consideration of the option. Some people would take that. And then there's an option for an extra vote, an advantage that we've never seen turn out well. And then the third potential option that she can choose from is we can give an advantage to your tribe in the next challenge. And I really liked, you were just immediately on top of this. You're like, which challenge? Is it the reward challenge?
Reward or is it immunity?
Yeah, and we didn't have any time to figure out the detail of that because Debbie immediately announced, Cochran says, this is a big decision, and you're thinking, hey, they're going to, have a good back and forth and break it down.
Vote.
Yeah, and without hesitating, I'll take the vote. At which point Cochran says, okay, my work here's done.
Yeah, because I thought if it's reward, even though, yes, that could help your tribe, it could help you, still no. I'll take the extra vote any day. But if it were
the extra vote
immunity,
has never worked to anyone's advantage.
No,
as a matter of fact,
it
gets you voted out. This is what you should weigh when you're thinking that.
They don't know about it.
Okay, you're talking about Debbie.
I know.
What are the chances? Now, the reason why the tribe challenge advantage could be really good, even for... Hold on,
reward.
Even for reward is because it's a way for her to give something to the tribe. It lets her be a provider
That has never meant diddly squat.
wait. For bonding, she's missed out on this. So now there's a positive association with her rejoining the tribe in that regard. I explain it that way because I think there's merit for it.
Never worked.
You can... fake hidden immunity idols have worked to great effect last season.
Yeah, they have.
Like one of the best ones we've ever seen. And certainly Crowley's.
It can fizzle quickly.
Well, yeah, as Eliza said, it's a stick. So,
Yeah.
to paraphrase, not the exact wording. But yeah, but the extra vote, hadn't seen anything with it, a challenge advantage like that. I thought, well, I would have to consider that because that's a way just to give something to your tribe to ease yourself back in because you need that. Unless you're going to immediately merge and things get jumbled up again. And Debbie needs all the help she can get in these social situations.
No, if they had said, you will have an advantage in the next immunity challenge, I might have considered that because that gives her an extra few days to bond with the people. I'm surprised they didn't
She gets
say,
the days anyway.
and you can't vote Debbie out the first time she comes back. You have to give her time to bond. But she'll have a couple of days now.
She has a couple days regardless.
That's what I mean. She'll have a couple of days now to bond with him coming back into the game. And
That would have happened even if she had taken...
I know, but what I said was if they won the immunity challenge because of the advantage, she would have had a couple more days.
I see. Yeah, it could be more beneficial in that regard. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
and that's why that's the only way
So
that I would have
her
considered
time with
that.
Cochran at this point is done. He tells her, go back and destroy it. And he tells us at that point, hey, she may do well. This has been a big boost. This could be a big boost for any castaway for sure. So what did you think about it on the whole?
I loved it because it was different.
Yeah.
It's just never happened. It's another first.
Yeah.
So, yay. They came out with another first.
Works.
Awesome. And here's the thing. Will Debbie tell?
Yes.
You think she'll go back and say,
absolutely.
I ate all this food and Cochran, that would be crazy to tell.
I don't know if she'll
it
tell
would be better to keep
everything.
that really quiet.
She absolutely. It was exile just like you've seen exile on any other. I had to sleep on the ground. I didn't have a shelter.
That was horrible. I'm so weak.
Yeah, there was some rice.
Feed me.
Yeah, but I think I'm a little dehydrated, blah, blah, blah. And I would have made sure I didn't look too rested or good
Debbie
when I
being
came
Debbie
back.
would have said, oh, yeah, I was able to build fire and shelter.
Yeah,
and,
hopefully she wouldn't oversell
I
it,
killed
right?
a bird and ate some food.
Thing is, it depends on when she came back. Did what we see and when did she come? She comes back on day 16, right?
Yes, for the challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Well.
No,
Yeah, the challenge
for tribal
was 16.
council, right?
Oh,
the
that's
night
right. Well,
night 16.
The challenge was the day for tribal council.
Yeah, but she didn't come back at the challenge. Let's just be clear. So the reason I'm saying it is you have to be careful because they can smell certain things on you, right? Your brain is highly tuned to pick out differences. In
Do
that
I smell
type, and
chocolate?
if everything's bland, yeah, she could end up smelling clean. Or, the food, they might smell the food on her, especially the way she was eating it and it was coming back out the sides of her mouth. She was just ecstatic, enjoying it.
She could have, swam the ocean, or hopefully.
She might have had a food baby.
Hopefully they had, maybe they had a bed and a shower downstairs or something.
Yeah, she described it as a
boat.
yacht, so yeah.
Yeah, so
it did look quite nice. It wasn't the boat that they came in on, it was something nicer than that. That's the way it looked.
And she tells us the extra vote is a certainty, and that's when she gave us the title of the show.
Yep.
Vote early, vote often.
Yeah. Okay, so we're headed to Nuku there on day 16.
I think we could just go with the Nuku and Mana.
I should drop that, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
All right, so we're back at Nuku.
Your point is taken.
Day 16.
Zeke.
Varner tells us
I like Varner.
he's really worried. He's talking to Zeke. They're, down at the beach talking. And he said, I pooped my pants a little there.
You really had to go through that.
Yeah, I made a note of that so I could mention it.
Little boys.
That's my boy Varner. Yep.
Well, and Zeke tells us that Varner's a desperate person that he thinks he could trust, and he could save him in
Very
the game.
important here. Yes.
Yep.
And Zeke responds to Varner and says, hey, yeah, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. I've been on the bottom myself.
Well, yeah.
But,
sure.
hey, buddy, you're not on the bottom. This Ty guy, he's not trustworthy, and Varner's ecstatic. He tells us he's so relieved. Within 5 minutes, he learns he's not on the bottom anymore.
Yeah, but he totally
Ty's the
believed everything.
threat.
He didn't even question that.
No.
He doesn't know Zeke or
That's
his
not true.
gameplay.
Not true. Not true. Varner says Ty is the threat, although I'm not 100% sure of that.
Oh.
He did put a qualifier on it. You missed it.
Okay.
Because you were just absolutely
Yeah,
concerned that he overplayed it.
He was still telling Sandra that I thought he bought it myself.
Well, Sandra's on top of it, right? As soon as he gets back to her, she's like, okay, what'd you say? What was going on? What was the discussion with Zeke about? Varner says, well, the target's Ty. How did Sandra respond?
Well, she said she'd vote Ty off as long as anybody, as long as it wasn't her, but she's not, this is not adding up.
Right. It should be me or Varner, she says.
So I think that was really, really, really smart of her to question that. Be willing to do it, but
And she
to
stayed,
question
it's
it.
all the way day 16. She's still in character. What does she tell us? I'll take control, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to
they
get
give
this
her-
again. I'm the queen.
I'm going to stay the queen. She's going to just give her a couple days. She get it in control, but oh well. Okay, we're at the immunity challenge now.
Community challenge.
Everybody has swimsuits.
Bright, colorful, clean swimsuits. Yes.
Okay,
Although some
number
people covered it up
one.
with a shirt. But yeah, day 16. That's a long time to wait to get the swimsuits.
Why didn't we see
right?
anything that they got them?
Yeah.
And
Well, you don't-
you and I
we
were
don't
like,
normally-
wait a minute. No,
You don't normally
nobody's-
see them getting them
We used
anymore. It
to.
just shows up in the challenges. You're
Well,
going
we
way,
used
way
to.
back. Way back.
It's just they showed up in them, and it was very noticeable. So I was like, when did they get those?
Right.
Why did they get them now? They usually get them during the
Monkey
first water
bars.
challenge.
I think it's the monkey bars.
That makes no sense.
Well, they had to swim. Let's talk about the challenge. You got to swim
How
out.
many times have they swam before?
This got to swim.
This is not the first challenge.
In previous
in the
challenges, they
water.
could actually walk. This time they had to swim. I think it was
No, they
mandatory that they swim.
They did not.
I know it wasn't
They
deep enough.
walked. Even Varner
But they all
walked,
swam going out in the going out part.
They didn't have
on the way
to.
coming back in.
because they walked.
Yeah, but I
coming
think they
back.
did because of the challenge. They had to swim out, and then they do the monkey bars, and then they
Mr. Contrarian.
collect. That's not contrarian. Then they collect these big puzzle pieces.
Close enough.
We've seen this puzzle before, and it's like it's a 3-dimensional puzzle, and it's pieces of barrels, right? And the barrels are cut in half, and you get half of one barrel attached to a quarter of another one. So it can be pretty tricky, but they're also heavy. That's the main thing. These puzzle pieces got some weight to them. And what they have to do is they have to, after they go through the monkey bars, they've got to load the puzzle pieces up onto a sled.
That was really hard for Sandra. It looked like she had trouble reaching.
On the monkey bars? Yeah.
Yeah,
She was
reaching.
struggling.
She was, of course, Sierra and Brad and those people had no trouble because they're tall. But
Yep.
Sandra looked like she was struggling to reach up there.
Well, and her tribe wasn't doing really well. The Mana tribe, Probst tells us they were working great together, took an early lead. Sandra was struggling. Mana maintained a lead while they were loading the puzzle pieces onto the sled
Mana
and
had all
dragging
their
the sled.
They had all their pieces on the sled before Nuku started loading them, I think. And
Yeah, maybe. It was a significant lead for sure. Ty made up some time, so he did good coming through the monkey bars and got him back on track after all the delays with Sandra. And Culpepper and Sierra were doing awesome lifting those big heavy pieces in for them, and their height made it easier for them for sure.
yeah, and Zeke and Ozzy did it for Nuku.
Yeah, Zeke does not have Culpepper or Sierra's height for sure. So it certainly wasn't as
Or Ozzy,
easy
for
for
that
them.
matter. He's
Yeah.
not as tall as they are.
So once they get the sled to the beach, there are 2 places they have to pick up puzzle pieces and drag the sled along this platform above the water while they're doing that. Once they get to the beach, if you didn't have something to move the sled over, it would just bite into the sand and wouldn't move. So they've got to put these wooden logs under the sled, and they've only got a few of them. So once they roll over ones at the back of the sled, they have to bring it around to the front over and over again to get
Okay.
it up the hill on the beach.
Here's what I really liked.
What's that?
Out of all that heavy lifting, getting that stuff up there,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone worked hard.
Yeah, everyone was
worked
straining
hard.
on both tribes.
That they did not have any of the men help with the puzzle. Cirie, Aubry, and Sierra did it on their own.
Yeah, and those are heavy puzzle pieces.
Like Sandra did the puzzle with Ozzy and Zeke. So she had lifters, but I thought they didn't do that. That's usually what they do, is have really strong people lifting the pieces, but they didn't have the two guys do it.
And before Nuku can get all their pieces sorted, the challenge is over. Yeah, Probst tells us it's one of the fastest puzzle finishes in the game.
I'm not sure Nuku even really got started. We can ask Sandra tomorrow, but I don't know if they did, because she said something about taking some of them off or something. They couldn't maneuver.
They needed some space to work. Yeah. I think they had just gotten the pieces up there and it was over.
And Jeff tells us that was one of the fastest finishes of a puzzle in Survivor history. So another first.
Yeah.
I was like, that was just awesome to watch those girls. Yes.
Yeah, they did fantastic. Sierra's ecstatic. She does her running jump with the leg wrap around Culpepper again.
Yeah, that just, I don't know, that just seems so strange to me, and especially as tall as she is.
Maybe there's not a lot of the
many guys she can jump on.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the rodeo guys are small, right? They're little guys. Very dexterous, but they're not necessarily
I always liked
big and tall.
Guys.
Okay. But yeah,
I don't remember if they were tall or not.
Culpepper's a lineman in the NFL, so she can take a run, jump, and she's not going to knock him over. I think
we did have
she's just
the
taking
rodeo
advantage
back
of that.
in Boise when I lived there. Okay, but I'm distracted now.
Varner tells us Ty's going home unless he pulls out a hidden immunity idol, and he's hoping that's not the case. I'm still worried for Varner at this point in the episode, even though I got Sandra going. I'm thinking, this is just going to backfire and it's going to blow Varner out.
Well, good on Sandra. She's already feeling like, no, she hadn't had this feeling before. Something feels wrong.
Yeah, Varner tells her Ty's going, and she says something is wrong.
She doesn't believe they're voting Ty, and she wants to get a read from Zeke herself. Mm-hmm. So she goes to talk to him herself.
Right.
And I thought I really appreciated all of that about her and her fighting, and I was thinking she might get.
I came at it a little different than you. I thought this is 16, and this looks like the first time she's had a conversation with him. So she's talking to Zeke. She's also talking to Andrea, Ozzy, and Sierra there. She says to Zeke, hey, you're smart. You know how this is going to play out. And to Andrea, you're a strong female. To Sierra, you're a strong female. Ozzy, you're the strong male. They're going to come for you guys, and I can help you. I can keep an ear out.
I loved her
in case Varner and Ty are plotting. But she was talking about further down the line.
Yeah, with Debbie, Ty, and Aubry when they get after the merge.
Yeah.
The Korong 3, she's dubbed them.
Right.
You know?
So she's selling fear, which is always a great thing to do when you're doing this kind of stuff.
You.
Yeah. So we really need to worry about these three.
Well, and they all were listening intently, apparently.
There was a confessional right after that with Sarah, and Sarah says she comes off so well. It's like she's grooming you. She's got this calm voice.
She doesn't pressure you.
Just talks you in.
She just sucks you right in.
And then when Ozzy's talking to Andrea and Sarah sometime after that, he says, she was so good I was considering her pitch. And both the ladies are shaking their head. Yeah.
Yeah. And though he did say, and she does have a point, I am concerned about, the Korong. So she's hurt Aubry anyway at that point, and Debbie and Ty probably, if they all get to the merge. So, and even Andrea, she seemed, I was just like, wow.
Well, and she jumps right back on the Ty train. She's like, he's so freaking all over the place.
I know. I thought maybe if she would take Ty off and tell him they were voting for him, though, I thought, he would just think, no, we told her that because we had to tell her somebody. But if she could have worked his paranoia.
Visual imagery, so there's definitely other moments when we got animals, but the black tip sharks, those,
when they show up.
Yeah, so there's one like right on the beach in the shallows there going along, and then next they show us Ty saying he's getting nervous. And he's noticing he's not included in these conversations where people are peeling off. And he tells us, I'm not a smart man. He gives us the Forrest Gump pitch, right? I'm not smart.
Well, at least he told him, I'm nervous. Everybody's leaving. And he wants to talk to him. But he says what he says in front of Varner.
He tells Varner that the vote's for Sandra. And Ozzy's like, I can't believe he did that. He's just like a pure knucklehead.
You know why? Because they didn't communicate. Don't tell Varner.
I don't believe that. That's you guessing, right?
I don't think if they'd have told him directly, I don't think he would have.
Well, they're a pair. You got Varner, you got Sandra. And you got to be worried about both of them. I know they had that discussion with him.
Well, the other
Ty,
four were.
This is the part where Ty's right and he's wrong. He's smart sometimes, and other times he's like the other end of the spectrum. This is the other end of the spectrum moment.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm agreeing 100% with Ozzy.
Can Ty not
Stupid and unnecessary.
Can he not see that he is on the outside of those four? And once he votes for Sandra and Varner, then it's him. Or maybe even him.
Ty was working, right? He told Sarah, hey, I have faith in you guys.
Yeah, but
because Sarah asked him, did you say that to Varner? I mean, she didn't do it the way I just did with the inflection that was going to tell someone who's listening closely that they made a mistake. She just asked, just level, right? And so I don't think she gave anything away, but she was validating that Ty goofed it.
Yeah, but I still don't think he knew that. I don't think he would have done it deliberately had he known that. Because even Andrea didn't know. She said, wasn't it Andrea that said to Ozzy, does Varner know? He's like, oh, no, we're not telling Varner. She didn't know either. She wasn't in the full loop.
Well, she didn't know what had been said since the last time she talked to him.
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it.
Why not look at it that way with Ty? He might not have known either. If Andrea didn't know.
Possible, but I don't think Zeke would have left a detail like that unfinished, right? Zeke's really on top of this stuff.
Well, it might not have got
and to a level that was very impressive. We're going to talk about in just a second at Tribal Council. So Varner tells Sandra it is Ty.
And Sandra says, he will go home. I'm going to set Ty up big time.
Yeah, she says, I'm going to act like I'm going home, but I'm going to set him up instead.
Well, I believe she could do it. It could work. It didn't. These were determined people, and they had the majority. So
at Tribal Council, Andrea's on the left. Sandra, on the front row, you got Andrea, Sandra, Ty, and Sarah. And in the back row, you got Varner, Ozzy, and Zeke.
Okay, I want to point out something here right at the beginning of Tribal. Another advantage to Debbie is she gets to watch the Tribal Council to get a real feel for what's going on.
Right, and get some of the dirty laundry.
Missed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another advantage instead of just coming in cold.
It's not one that other people will be happy about, though. She's basically getting to be a little bit of a spy without having taken any risk that they've taken or are taking by being there at Tribal Council. So you're not necessarily viewing her in a positive light. She's sitting there immune to the whole thing, but getting to soak it all in.
Well, I think mostly just because of her connection they might be a little concerned about her connection to Ty.
That too. Okay, so Andrea, Ozzy, Zeke, and Sarah have to get fire because this is the first time. Night 16 that they've been to Tribal Council. Debbie comes in smiling and waving. Andrea tells us in response to Prope's first big question we got to get rid of the big threats. That's what this season is all about.
Well, shouldn't Ozzy be nervous?
Well, that's one of the next question went to Ozzy. He says, yeah, I debate every day on the targets, and I know I'm one, but I'm here with a lot of big targets. So I thought he deflected really well.
Yeah, he did. He did, other than he looked at Sandra and Jeff pointed it out.
At which point, Sandra plays her role perfectly, right?
Yep.
She says, hey, I've had 16 great days, but this is it for me. No one's talking strategy to me. And this is where it got surprising, right? This is where we take our first wild turn, because Ty is like, he's touched by that. I don't think he was acting. I thought he really was responding and saying, wow, yeah, that would be awful, because he says, yeah, that's an accurate description, but I'm worried too, right? I took out Malcolm, the big
point
threat.
That out at Tribal Council.
And he's doing that thing like he did with Cirie, where he's just staring at Sandra.
I made a big move. I took out Malcolm. I could be a target too. I'm thinking, okay, keep selling them.
Yeah, well, Sandra's doing such a good job, she starts to flip Ty. Right? And then, of course, Sarah didn't help any, because in answer to a question she gets, she said, well, yeah, I've heard a few names. Some of us are still open. And then Ty's like, wait a second. This is supposed to be a lock on Sandra. And he You could see it in his eyes. What? It's not just Sandra here?
Yeah, he looks around at everybody like, what's happening?
Sandra doesn't miss a beat. She says, hey,
Well, spit out
Ty,
a name,
as
Ty.
long as it's not me, I'll vote with you.
I'll vote with you.
Just
I'll
don't
vote with you.
Don't whisper my name in my ear. Tell me
Yeah,
who you want me
go
to
ahead.
vote for.
Well, of course you can tell me. Whisper it to me. She
And
said, forget Jeff.
and he does.
You're not controlling tribal council.
Yeah, Sandra's in
Sandra
charge.
took over now.
At this point, yeah. So Ty tells Sandra, and then he tells Varner, and that's when we get to find out who he's saying. He's saying Ozzy.
Well, I liked that Sarah was the one to say, well, then share it with all of us. And so he did.
Yeah, except while Ty's telling Varner, Sandra's telling him that he had
She's
said
telling
Ozzy.
everybody.
Yeah, so Ty can't see that Sandra's ratting him out.
Well, it's last ditch effort.
They cut
You go,
over to
girl.
Debbie, and Debbie's got her hands up to her face. She's like watching it all go down through her fingers.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Ty tells us, well, yeah, it is Ozzy. Ozzy's a god.
I can't compete with him.
And the whispering starts again.
And that, the merge is coming. 1 or 2 votes. The merge is here.
Yep.
I can't compete with Ozzy.
And you can tell it rattled him a bit because Zeke asked Ozzy,
Yeah.
should we change? And Varner's looking at folks and saying, Ty, it's still Ty, right?
Well, and Sandra even says to Andrea,
Yep.
Varner and I thought, oh, you're speaking for Varner too. Varner and I will vote
she
with
whispered it, right? It's not so that everybody could hear. Yeah.
Well, Varner could have, but
I loved Andrea's
Andrea,
response. She looked and she just shook her head yes. Like Malcolm said, you tell everyone yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Varner's still looking around. It's Ty, right? It's Ty?
well, and what surprised me most was that when Zeke turned to Ozzy and said, do we change the vote? Do we change the vote?
Right. Earlier. Yep.
Do we vote out Ty?
And at this
assuming
point,
that-
after all that's gone down with Ty telling other folks and all the whisperings going on, Sarah asked Zeke, will Ozzy vote Ty? So now you're wondering what's going on. How's this? Are they going to switch the vote? Who's going?
Well, if nothing else, Sandra made a lovely tribal council with her.
You know who made the tribal council for me?
Ty.
Zeke.
Oh.
Zeke made the tribal council because at this
Why?
point he reined Ty back in and he suppressed Ty, right? And he did it in a way that I don't think Ty could pick up on because he said, Ty, who do you trust? And how can I trust you if I don't know who you trust? And then he just nailed it. He put the nail in the coffin. He says, you're always running around hunting for idols.
Looking for idols all the time. And Ty's like, no, I'm not.
And I think that because when we watched this the first time, we've seen it multiple times at this point because it was another just amazing tribal council. I realized on the second or third pass through that's it. That's why Ty didn't play his idol.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because he needs to prove himself. And Zeke knew that Ty knew that and was going to feel that, and he just locked him by doing that. I know I may be giving Zeke a lot of extra credit, but it seemed
I think you're giving him a little bit much.
It seemed masterful to me.
I thought it was very good and very well handled. And he said, you say you trust me and Sarah, Andrea, and Ozzy. You say you trust us. You know what? So, yeah, he did dial him back in with that.
Well, it's 2 things. It's a 2-point story. Ty, this is about trust, and Ty, don't play an idol.
Well, I don't think he said that much, but you don't trust us if you're always running around and looking. So you're right. This is a way for Ty, if he does have an idol, to trust him.
Right. So he gets to prove himself.
Yeah.
And Zeke is not going to know for sure.
Because I was shocked when he didn't play it.
Yeah, me too. That's why on the second time watching, I was like, oh, that's it. That's the moment when Ty realized he should not play it.
I even said,
Zeke's giving him a message.
JT, Ty's going to top you. He's going to leave with 2 idols.
Right. He's going to pull a James.
Going to join James, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Varner thought they had the people because of him saying, yeah, let's vote.
I'm going to give Sarah an assist on that masterful move that Zeke pulled too, because she added, I don't know, Ty. I don't know. and so it's like, you got to prove yourself, Ty. You got to prove yourself to us. Prove that we can trust you. Because there's no reason Ty shouldn't have played at least one of those idols. Ty could have flipped the script on this completely. He could have buried him. He could have given an idol to Sandra. Mm-hmm. Could have played one for himself to know for sure. Now he's still got 2. So he's ahead of the game. But he could have done this and destroyed him again, just
Well,
like what happened before.
And if Ty pulled in Varner, Sandra, and Debbie, they'd have had the numbers.
Yes.
So,
And I think Debbie would have been impressed enough to consider it if it had gone down that way.
But it also could have,
Here's the other thing. Let's go ahead and give Varner an unintentional assist level 2, not a level 1 assist the way Sarah got. We'll give Varner a level 2 assist because what he did was he rushed it. He put a time pressure on it. And we know in negotiations, that's one of the big things you should always watch out for. When someone's trying to time pressure you. And so Varner pipes up and says, hey, can we just vote? Can we just vote? And he's smiling and clapping his hands. He just wants to get this over with, which in a lot of cases is a really bad sign. So I did initially think, oh, but buddy, it could be you. It still could be you.
Well, his name hadn't come up, so.
Ty's voting. He's got his fingers crossed, hoping it's going the right way.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure.
They did a great job. I wasn't sure either.
The editing was awesome.
I'm going to be thrilled if it's Sandra at this point, but I can't tell 100%.
I'd have been more thrilled to watch her pull it off, but...
So Ty does not play the hidden immunity idol. I think the Zeke, Sarah, Varner play their work.
I really want to ask Sandra if anybody just openly reassured Ty. It felt like there was some communication that we didn't get to see that was more out there.
Why did Ty not
just
play an idol?
Vote, blah,
Let's
blah,
see
blah.
if she knows. Yeah, we'll just ask it open like that, open-ended. Let's not infer anything. Okay, so a couple of votes come in for Ty, and Varner is smiling. He thinks he knows what's going on. Boop, up comes a vote for Sandra. Smile gone.
Yeah, as soon as that first
Sandra's
vote,
smile's gone.
Well, they paid attention, but when the second one came,
her smile turned upside down. It's a frown.
Then.
Yeah.
That's it.
Boom. They took her down.
Yeah.
And so that crew gets credit for taking Sandra out. They all get a check box on their resume for that.
Yep, they got her, and she was gracious.
Yeah, she wasn't bitter.
You were going on about, the ego coming through and all, and
she was arrogant.
She was.
And that's a survivor sin.
And a lot of it's bravado.
And it can be an act, and you can choose to do that as part of it. And I won't be surprised to hear that was part of her strategy, what she felt she maybe needed to do to put that front up.
I totally believe
But at
that.
the same time, when you got someone saying, let the queen, the queen's going to be the queen, and you can't take me out.
Well, I thought she should have knocked some of that back. A lot of that back.
I will enjoy when you get voted out when you're doing that. Yeah. That's part of human nature.
I didn't enjoy it. I was a little sad, but... It is what it is, and I'll move on. I didn't like Malcolm going either, but...
Probst tells us for the first time in 94 days, it's time to snuff that torch.
She said, I wish you guys luck, and it's okay. You guys knock it out. She was very gracious, and she even teased with Jeff about, don't do it, Jeff.
And he paused.
Don't do it, Jeff.
He gave her some side eye and a little smirk, and then...
Yeah, that was nice. And then
the snuffer came
it
down. Yeah.
Well, a new experience for Sandra.
Yeah. Probst says, I have no idea what just happened.
They're sitting there tonight, and Sandra's kids are crumbling their Christmas wish list.
Oh, you went dark.
No.
You went dark.
Mom didn't bring the other meal home.
All right, he tells Debbie there's a torch and a buff for you when you get back to camp. So she heads back to the camp with them at Nuku.
Goodbye, Sandra. She's still the queen. She's still the only one who's won twice.
Currently.
And she made certain that nobody was going to win a second time this season.
Will not be surprised to hear her talk about that in the interviews tomorrow.
Why not? Because she did. She said
but I got a simple response to that. A winter season, there's a really good chance that that's not going to be the case anymore.
Well, no.
But go ahead.
Not in a winter season.
Talk smack.
But she'll probably be in the winter season, too.
Not for long, she won't.
I don't know. With other winners.
No, this rain and this run is done.
Well, that's the only reason I didn't have her as my USB, because I enjoyed cheering for her.
There was a long-term cost for all the smack talking like that.
Yeah,
and she hasn't.
There is.
If she comes back again, she's still going to be paying for that. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Next time on Survivor?
Jeff tells us that Mana reaches a breaking point, and you've got everybody crying, sitting around.
See Brad crying, Cirie crying,
Aubry.
Aubry crying, and Aubry saying, this game is hard. What's up with that? What do you think has happened? My first thought was, okay, did they get letters from their loved ones? Did someone find out some bad news about a loved one?
I thought maybe they weren't getting enough food.
Right, because they're basically subsisting on coconuts there.
Yeah, and that they had another...
that's grinding them down.
Another hard challenge, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is just so hard.
Yeah, it seemed like something else. No, it's something with a loved one, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
That's too early for a loved one.
Well, okay, then it's some kind of conflict in the tribe. Not unlike what we're told next over at Nuku, alliances implode.
Maybe someone has to leave for something.
Yeah, could be a medical. And Sarah's talking to Andrea over at the Nuku. Got it in one more time. And Sarah says, I'm irate right now. And Andrea responds, me too. It made me mad.
Yeah. And Sarah is ready to cut Ozzy's throat.
Varner says to Sarah, I got to throw shade on someone else. Let's get rid of Ozzy. Well, he says that I got to throw shade on someone else's confessional. And then to Sarah, let's get rid of Ozzy. And that's when she said, yeah, in her confessional, time to cut his throat.
Okay.
Wow. Great episode.
It was a great episode.
Fantastic episode.
Well, I'm really this season just, there's a lot of people that you like. These are, our Survivor people. So I'm just accepting when they go home. It's like, well, okay, we've gotten to see a lot of people that we enjoy. And
it's not... For me, it's not what happens in some of the seasons where the first part of the season is about getting rid of the just the cruft, right? The people that look like they were disposable. There's a weight associated with these vote offs. These have been significant. Like if the way I was looking at
15 minutes and now they're done. They didn't really want to play for 39 days, or
you didn't see them bringing anything to the game.
Yeah.
The way so I would have felt that same way if Hali and Cirie Thomas had gone, right? If Andrea and Sarah had gone out. Because, like I said in the beginning, or even Debbie, right? These are the bottom half, and so they're not the ones that are...
should be included.
Yeah, we've had that discussion.
Or Sarah, really. But
yeah, okay. We've already had that discussion multiple times in the beginning of the season.
Yes, I know. And yet you continue to bring
That's right. Persist, because I'm right. Anyway, so from that perspective, it wouldn't have been as impactful as this first as we're having here in the first half, right? We haven't quite completed the first half of the game yet because we haven't gotten to the merge. So yeah, there's some significant weight and that's going on. What, you feel shocked?
No, you keep doing your arm like I was showing you. You emphatically do your arm every time you emphasize.
Yeah, except it's by my side the whole time. You can just feel me moving it.
I know, but my arm's on top of it.
You're gesticulating wildly like I'm being exaggerated about it. You can just feel it.
I could.
Okay.
My arm's on top of yours.
Okay, good deal. Anything else you want to say about the episode?
No, just that, Sandra saying there would never be another two-time winner.
Yeah, well, she's wrong.
Yeah, I think probably she is.
The only time she gets to say that is when the show's canceled. All right, how about a JSFL update?
Okay, we still have a three-way tie with 27 points, and 23 people lost their USB 24 tonight.
Yep, some sad folks.
But there were 100...
They had a wild ride.
Yep, 126 people, not me.
Me.
Earned a vote-off point. 65 people lost a safe point. Was that you?
No, I got the vote off, so no. Okay.
Okay, the challengers...
Side challenge, yep.
Yeah, Iron Dave is still in the lead with 25 points. Nina is nipping at his heels with 24. With 23, we got Cold Mike and Jeremiah. 22, Drew, Hubaloo, Jonathan, and Stacy. You're kind of back in the middle again.
I've been in the middle since last time.
21, James and Shannon and Parker.
Okay.
With 20, Brandon and Seth, and with 17, Jody.
All right.
You know what Jody's doing, right? She's
playing under the radar.
She's giving you a sense of a false sense of security.
I see.
So that she can really pop you in the end.
I see.
When she rushes ahead, like you always say you do to me.
Well, I do most of the time.
And yet you didn't last time.
Yeah. Well, there's last time, and then there's the
And
majority
you
of the time.
gloated hugely tonight, by which I said, I'm still 1 point ahead of you. So
Well, you said you
don't
were
gloat
ahead. You
too
didn't.
much.
You were pretending like it was significant, but it's
Well,
not.
it's one.
Yeah. And then
Still one.
It'll be none
It was
next
two.
week.
It was two. That doesn't mean you're going to catch up. Okay, we digress.
All right.
That's the stats for this week.
All right, so we'll have a interview with Sandra tomorrow. Hopefully be able to get that out. And then we'll have the listener feedback show on Saturday. That's your turn to share your thoughts about this amazing episode. Or maybe you didn't think it was amazing. You might be really bummed out because Sandra's gone. I totally
There will be
understand
people that are bummed out and people that will be ecstatic.
Yes.
As always, there's
There's the range.
That's
You
right.
get both extremes and the middle. Yep. So we're looking forward to hearing that and any predictions you have going forward. What do you think it is that's got Mana tribe in tears, right? And is Varner the next obvious one to go in Nuku?
Yeah, and Cirie literally had, tears were streaming down her cheek. So,
It looked like all three of them were clearly crying. So yeah.
I want to know what happened.
Yes, but we're asking them for
I wanna
listener
know.
It's not. This part isn't about you. We just had your time.
I'm ready to know.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Little
ready
patience.
for next Wednesday.
We got to ask them to help us with some ideas for what that might be, what their predictions going forward are going to be. The voicemail line 206-350-1547. There's a toll-free version of that number, 844-643-8737. The email Joanne and Stacy Show at gmail.com, and you can always find those at getsfp.com. Great. We look forward to hearing you. Keep it in that 3-minute range. We had 35 people. It took it took all day Saturday to get that listener. Yeah, it was awesome. But it took all day to get that together. So really appreciate it when you can keep it to 3 minutes or less.
And get them in soon.
Yeah, and we had folks that did. They got them in.
I know.
What
That
do
made
we
it
have?
awesome.
Like 18 maybe by Friday?
We had 20 by Friday night.
Yeah, so you're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. 3 minutes or less. There's always a little set of starter questions to help you get thinking, and you can put that feedback together and share and be a part of the community. Let us know you're out there. We don't know unless we hear from you, and this is a great way to participate. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just really anxious to hear what everyone else thought.
Yeah, and anxious for next Wednesday.
Even more anxious for next Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. We've left every week like
On the
that.
edge of my seat every week.
All right. On that note,
Good night, everybody.
have a good one.